Hey superstars, welcome to the Get Rich Without Being a Bitch podcast, and I am your host Vanessa for this journey. We're going to be challenging some stereotypes, shattering glass ceilings, really looking at what it takes to live richly and to design a business that's going to support the life that you really want to be living. I'm going to be sharing lots of tips, tools, and strategies along the way, and I can't wait for you to join me on this journey. Hey superstars, welcome back to another episode of Get Rich Without Being a Bitch. And today's episode, I want to dive into some of the mistakes that happen when you start to hire for help. Because I know it can be a hurdle, right, to overcome, getting to that place where you're like, no, I'm going to hire for help. And I know that there's also a lot of stories out there around, you can't find good help these days. It's so difficult, like all the rest of it. But let's just jump through all of that for now and assume that you have bitten the bullet and you've hired. One of the biggest mistakes that we see when we're working with our women business owners is that they frankly have gone through all the trouble of hiring and interviewing, and they haven't set their new hires up for success. They haven't set them up for success. And what does that mean? So there could be this lovely excitement, right? Initially in the early few days, sometimes it might last, the first couple of weeks where there's a lot of contact between you and your new hire, learning the systems, getting your passwords, getting things set up, getting your emails, right? All those logistics, perhaps getting them on payroll, right? All those different things that need to happen. And then it seems to fall off a cliff around that 10-day, 2-day mark. And what we have seen from experience is that most people think that onboarding is really that first 10 days to 2 weeks, which is frankly really orientation. It's not true onboarding. And then it's like we've got these expectations that, we're probably not aware of, that our new hires are amazing mind readers. They know exactly what they need to do to deliver value and make us happy as the business owners and add value, all of those things. And things aren't happening. And you as the business owner, you get really busy, you get frustrated, you get subpar work given to you, or you feel like your new hires aren't productive enough. And honestly, I've got to give you the cold, hard truth right now is most of that lies with you as the business owner and what you are not doing. So if there's one thing that you've got to take away from today's episode is that hiring people is, yes, it is a big investment. It is typically going to be the biggest line item on your P&L, right? It is going to be a lot of this time, space where you invest time, energy, and money is with people. It's also the secret to getting freedom and creating leverage in your business so that you don't have to be doing everything. But if you are not smart around how you hire people and particularly how you get them started and set up for success, frankly, they will become a drain and you will see them as a cost as opposed to an investment. And again, yes, it is down to you. And this, by the way, is irrespective of how much expertise, experience they're bringing to the table. There is always got to be a training period where we get on the same page, because even if they've got a lot of experience and expertise, they have still got to learn the way you do things and how things work for your business and your clients. So I kind of want to give you a bit of a checklist of some of those things here so that, again, next time you're hiring, you can run through that checklist and think, okay, these are some of the things that I now need to be putting in place. One of the first things is mapping out a 90-day onboarding process. Now, I'm not going to give you everything that goes into that, but I'm going to give you some really good pointers. And honestly, if you do more than you were previously doing, you're likely to be creating more success with your next hire. But honestly, the first few days is orientation, right? This is about getting those passwords set up, the emails, getting the systems in place, phones and computers, meeting other members of the team or different vendors. Perhaps it's introducing them to clients if they're going to be doing client-facing work, right? It's that orientation so that they can start to understand how things work in your business understanding your values, what's really important to you, the vision, like where are we headed with this business, right? These are all those things that happen in the early days. Typically, again, I say that orientation is probably a week to 2 weeks. Okay. Now, after that, what you want to be thinking about is where do you want that new hire to be by the end of 90 days? So I like to kind of jump to the end of 90 days and then work backwards. And for most hires, your hires really should be up to speed within 90 days. Now, there are industries that there is an exception to this in very complex working environments, but they tend not to be the businesses that we work with. I'm talking about things like engineering, right? And perhaps some really very complex type roles where it can take perhaps 12 months and 18 months to get up to speed. But what we've found in the businesses that we work with, particularly professional services and law firms, 90 days is a really solid marker. So I want you to sit down and think about what do you want them to be doing by the end of those 90 days, right? And then from there, this means this is success. One of the tips I give my business owners, by the way, is that you will know that you've been successful when you are joyfully, I know you're not writing the check per se these days, but pressing the buttons for payroll or whatever it is. But when you're joyfully paying your new hire and you feel really good about doing it because they're really taking stuff off your plate and really helping you to take your business to the next level, like that's a marker of success. So 90 days, start with the end in mind. Where do they need to get to by then? And again, typically that is they should be fulfilling pretty much everything that was on their job description when they were hired, right? And they're up to speed. Now I like to come back into, so if that's where we want to get them to at 90 days, where do we want to get them to at 60 days, right? It's obviously not going to be as far as that. Start to write down, like, what are the 60-day milestones for success? And coming back into 30 days, like, where do you want them to be at the end of that 30 days? Now, you've also got to be looking at, okay, it's one side of it, it's right, where do you want them to be? But what resources, tools, and training do they need to get there? Now, again, I'm going to give you different indicators because depending on how advanced you are in your business, what systems you've got in place, right? There's different ways to answer this. Sometimes you mistakenly think that you have to put all of the training materials in place before you hire. And honestly, that's going to be something that will seriously slow you down. I'm a firm believer in create once you need to. And there are different creative ways of actually doing this once you've got the hires in place, but you don't need to have it all mapped out. But you definitely want to think about what resources do they need? Do you have trainings? Do you have a handbook? Do you have SOPs and different things that they can actually go through, right? Is part of the training going to be actually shadowing with you or with other team members? Is it very much, and again, I would really recommend this in the early days, it's probably going to be at least several times a week, sitting down with either you as the business owner or somebody else that really knows the business well to ask those questions, get their answers in a timely manner, and again, do some on-the-job training. So think about what are the resources that they need, whether that is sitting down face-to-face with you, consuming training that you've already got. But again, it's about setting them up for success. I'll give you another tip here as well, that sometimes those milestones of success can be really well co-created with your new hire. I love to do that. I love that co-creation of getting them on board with, well, tell me, where do you want to be? Like at the end of 90 days, what would success look like for you? What do you need support with? What sort of resources do you need, right? What training do you need? So again, co-creating that is a really great way to not have to do all of the thinking yourself, because sometimes it's just hard to think through that lens, but also it gets them on board, right? And engaged in the process. You have definitely got to have as well feedback loops in that time. So the feedback loops could definitely be around the 30, 60, 90-day mark. And frankly, they're probably before the 30. I would say they're probably, end of first day, end of first week, end of 2 weeks, 30 days, 60, 90, right? You can do that through a survey where you have a set of questions to ask them, how they feel that they're doing, their level of confidence, their level of competence, what else they need help with. You could use a survey so that they have some time to think about it, but then you build that into a direct one-to-one conversation with them, again, so that it's collaborative and co-creative. You really want to be showing your new hires that you believe that you want to set them up for success, right? And you're giving them all the chances of it. So let's not outsource too many of these things. It's important that your new hires feel you very present in that process. So setting those milestones. And again, I'm going to give you another tip here because these are where these things fall apart. If you put day ones on the calendar, right? Your new hire starts, make sure you've got time blocked on your calendar to sit down with them, to meet, to greet, to go through all of these things. Perhaps it's the end of the day. Where are they at? Do you want to do next check-in, a couple of days out and a week? Put those meetings on your calendar, but put all of the meetings, the one-to-ones for 90 days, get them on your calendar. Because what we have found is that it gets clunky. Again, it's around that 2-week mark that things seem to feel like they fall off a cliff and people get busy. And before you know it, the 30 days has gone by and you've missed it. You've missed that milestone and you have no idea what's happening with your new hire, right? So getting those things on the calendar is really important. Do them on from day one, and then you don't have to worry about them. So this is about the 90-day onboarding. You also want to be, during this time, make sure that you've got a really good feedback loop. Part of the feedback can be, of course, through those one-to-one meetings. That's going to be the obvious place. And again, why it's so important. But sometimes there's just really timely feedback that has to be given. And by the way, when I say feedback, it is both positive and what we call negative or constructive feedback. But if somebody is doing something really well, or you're loving the way they're approaching it and they're really doing it to the standards that you want, make sure you give them that feedback very specifically and timely. Take the time to show them and tell them what you appreciate. Because there is something that says you will get more of the behavior that you are rewarding, right? That you are acknowledging. Equally so, if there's something that's not working, it's happening in a way that you don't want it to be, not up to your standards, again, misaligned with your values, you want to flag it really quickly. And when I say quickly, this is a within 24 hours. It's the same for positive and negative. Ideally, it's happening within 24 hours. And frankly, the longest that should wait is 72 hours. Because the more time that is left between giving feedback, the less clear you are going to be, and equally so, the less clear they're going to be. And especially when we want to be giving examples, if we start to talk back to things and we want to give it specific examples, it gets blurry for both sides. And that feedback is not going to be as robust as it could be. So that's looking at those opportunities for feedback. By the way, does that continue beyond the 90 days? Of course it does. Always, right? These are just practices that you want to have. When I was doing my executive coaching work, their performance reviews were once a year. Once a year, they sat down. That was all it was. Well, you try as the boss, trying to remember back over the course of a year, right? With everything that was good, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of those things, and trying to be really, really constructive and specific. It's difficult. And you imagine as well being on the receiving end of some more negative feedback that possibly happened 3 months ago. And you haven't been told about it. You haven't had a chance to course correct. It's got blurry. You're really not entirely sure what's gone on anymore, right? It's not helpful. So feedback is one of those things that we definitely want to just build in. It doesn't have to be that sit down, formal, corporate type event. I like to think of it as an ongoing conversation where we are constantly dialing in things, re-clarifying expectations, resetting and getting on the same page so that ultimately your hires, your team can really excel in their role and also, make you happy that you've hired and they're really helping to take your business to the next level. The last thing I really want to talk about today as well, in terms of setting them up for success, again, talked about clarifying expectations. There was a tip that I was given, and there's a lot we could be talking about clarifying expectations, but I think if you can think about it through this lens, it will be really helpful. It's like painting the picture of what it looks like, of what success looks like. Can you paint the picture of what success looks like for the different tasks, projects, areas of responsibility in a way that is really clear and is not left open to chance? Because here's the thing, most of us speak in very general terms, and we kind of think, everybody gets it, but we're possibly speaking up here, right, in very general terms. And have we really painted that picture in a way that somebody else can pick it up? Equally so, have we asked for feedback from them? Hey, I just want to recap here. What are you hearing here? What is your understanding here of where we're headed and what this needs to look like? So again, you can constantly make sure that you're on the same page. It's that's exactly it. I'm so glad we seem to be, headed in the right direction. Please let me know, right? If you have any other questions. Again, as that business owner and the business leader, especially in those early days, one of the risks is that you are super, super busy, and then your new hires don't want to come to you for that help when they need it. So energetically, you want to be open, right, and approachable for those questions and being there to help, and also guide them to when might be the best time for that to happen. Because again, another complaint that we hear is the constant interruptions. I'm constantly interrupted, tons and tons of questions. I've taken I'm open and approachable, Vanessa, and now it's biting me on the backside. So one of the things that we work with a lot of our business owners on is just giving dedicated what we call office hours. And it's for team to be able to ask those questions. And it might be twice a week. And this is when you're going to come to us with those questions and we'll answer them. And one last tip I'm going to give here as well. And by the way, I've given you a lot. In this segment, there's a lot. So I'm going to really encourage you to listen back several times to this one, take some notes, and start to make your list of how you can improve that onboarding process and setting your new hires up for success. But the last tip that I do want to give you, which again, our clients absolutely love, and they can't imagine why they were doing it any other way once they learn this, is you're going to train your team to come to you when they have questions with their proposed solutions. It's not that they just come to you for you to pour into them, which after a while gets really draining. You've got to train them to think for themselves, to problem solve, right? To be critical thinkers. So what we love to suggest is, yes, we've got office hours, and here's how we're going to create success there. You're going to come to me with your problem. You are going to make 3, proposed solutions, and you are going to give me your number one recommendation for the solution and why you think that's important. That alone will train your team, again, to be so much more self-sufficient, thinking for themselves, and frankly, training them out of some of those old habits where they were used to going to somebody like a former boss for advice, and that person just poured into them. And they kind of got a little lazy, right? Thinking on their feet. So that alone will be a game changer. Again, I know I shared a lot of really important, highly valuable tips today. Remember, when this can seem a lot, people are going to be a key to freedom. And it's really fun when you start to work with a team that you love, that are doing great work, that are on board with your vision and your mission, and you're collaborating together. I mean, those are some of my best moments. Frankly, those are really energizing moments for me. And yeah, guess what? I also created those mistakes, right? And didn't set people up for success and didn't know about, onboarding processes. So start where you're at. It is really worth putting the effort in here because let's remember, they are a big potential cost or they are a big investment. And if we're going to hire people, we want to invest in them because they are going to be the key to your next level of freedom and taking your business to the next level. As always, superstars, I'd love to hear what you are taking away from today. And please write a review. 5-star positive reviews are always welcome and appreciated. Love to hear what's resonating, how you're applying it to your business, and what else you would love to learn as well. And don't forget to hit the subscribe so you don't miss any episodes and share with your girlfriends in business. Catch you on the next episode.